joining us as she does each Monday afternoon at this time is Ann Coulter, the author of many New York Times bestsellers, and she's got a new book coming out in a few weeks. Ann, what's the title of the new book, and is it available now on Amazon?
It's available now on Amazon, and the title is Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind.
Well, Ann, I know you're originally from Connecticut, so I think that you probably know a lot about the New York Daily News, and you saw the tragic news today that Trump derangement syndrome has not paid off well for them. They're going to have a smaller staff now than most regional newspapers in small markets. They're going to have 40 people in the newsroom after the layoffs today. Once America's largest newspaper.
Wow, I did see they were cutting their staff in half, but 40 news people. Well, it probably doesn't take too many to write those, Trump is a clown, and that literally is what they were doing throughout the campaign and have continued to do. They're just maniacally, I don't know what they think they're accomplishing. Are they trying to hurt Trump's feelings? I don't think he really minds.
Well, what I always think is, Ann, who do they, did any of these people that were writing these headlines and laying out these front pages, did they ever go like onto the subway or into a bar room to see who's reading the New York Daily News or who was reading the New York Daily News?
No, you're absolutely right. It's a very weird combo platter of sort of a blue-collar style with the New York Times politics, except even more retarded.
Yeah. I know. I remember in the old days when I was a kid, Terry and the Pirates, Smilin' Jack, all those great stories about the mafia, the editorials that ran like 100 words by a guy named Maury Allen. I mean, and Dick Young with Young Ideas, the baseball column. I mean, it was a great newspaper for anybody in the Northeast, you know? And now it's just a complete rag.
New York Times, but this is the thing. Every journalist, even the tabloid reporters, all they really want to do is be admired by the New York Times. Of course, first of all, they'd like to work for the New York Times, but I just always feel like dropping them a note saying, no one at the New York Times is ever going to respect you.
Right.
You can stop calling Trump a clown.
I saw one of the people that was laid off was the breaking news editor named Zach Haberman. And I thought, Haberman. Doesn't that name ring a bell? It's do you know it's no relation for sure?
No, I'm asking you.
I don't know.
I'd be shocked.
I'll bet it is because her
Clyde,
her father was Clyde, and now Maggie is has Trump derangement syndrome covering the president, and I'll bet anything that's her brother. It is.
That would be interesting.
It is.
Clyde Haberman, longtime writer for the Times. I'll get some of the details of this wrong, but the crucial parts are right. He was fired from the New York Times for something very funny. Actually, I think everyone comes off looking good in this story, though I'm sorry to say it is about the New York Times. Anyway, because of the New York Times, they're doing all the awards given by, City College of New York, and there are 1,000 of them. It's some graduation ceremony. So, it's like best exposition writing, that kind of thing. It just goes on and on and on. So he's compiling it, and he throws in one just as like a joke for himself that's just completely invented, something about, a vulgar one.
Yeah.
And so anyway, somehow this comes to the attention of, I guess at the time, the publisher, Sulzberger. I forget if it's a Sulzberger or a different editor, calls Clyde into his office and says, not only are you fired, you will never work at the New York Times again, which is a great story, but of course he then did come back. And I think he should have come back. Come on, that was funny.
Well, the funny thing is the New York Times had a story about the Daily News laying off half the staff today and basically, on the verge of going out of business. And they quote a former New York Daily News columnist. We own the city. You know who the columnist they quoted was?
Who?
Michael Daly, who was fired from the New York Daily News for making stuff up about Northern Ireland. I mean, is that the guy you want to brag about how great the paper was? A guy who was the earlier version of Mike Barnacle and Kevin Cullen and Janet Cook? Good Lord.
And The Indian on CNN on Sundays. What's his name?
I can't.
Fareed Zakaria, is that
that's it. Fareed Zakaria.
Yeah, also plagiarist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in the era of fake news, you do brag about who has the best fake news.
Well, anyway, by the way, a texter just wants to know: are you going to promote your new book, Ann? Are you going to go on The View?
Oh, I'd love to.
Could Whoopi Goldberg have done Jeanine Pirro a bigger favor?
No, she could not have. I'm insanely jealous. But I've usually gone on The View, and a good time is had by all. So we'll see. I hope this won't change that. I'd love to go on with those gals. It's always a lot of fun.
So, Ann, last week you said on the show your father's an ex-FBI agent. We knew that, and you said the FBI should be abolished, which I agree. I've been saying it for months. So I'm going to ask you, have you looked over that remnant or whatever, that rump FISA warrant application that the FBI released on Saturday night?
Technically, Trump released it. I don't think the FBI wanted that seeing the light of day. Why, yes, I have, and I'm glad you asked, because as I have been tweeting like mad, most of the conservative media, I really think, are getting this wrong, and it drives me crazy because they go wild over little stuff that isn't really that important, and it's never going to come to anything, but they're missing, I think, the big point here. Look, this what they released from the FISA application on Carter Page, an American citizen, who apparently committed the crime of meeting with a foreigner. But we'll get back to that. It was a lie. They lied. There is absolutely no question this is a deliberate lie, and that and fully supports the famous Devin Nunes memo attacking the FISA warrant on Carter Page. And the deception is in the footnote describing who funded the dossier, which, of course, is the main basis. Yeah. And the footnote, which the Democrats, and even to this day, the liberal media think, they basically said who it was. Okay, they didn't give the exact name, but this is the kind of phraseology. No, it was a lie in a long footnote that goes on and on about a U.S. person who funded this. Oh, and to get to the conclusion, though I'm sure all your listeners know, the person or entity that funded it was the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. Now, how did the FBI describe that? They say, and the Department of Justice here, they say the FBI speculates that the U.S. person who funded it may have wanted
was likely looking for information. I'm reading it from it right now.
Okay, then read it directly, but speculate.
The FBI speculates that the identified U.S. person was likely looking for information that could be used to discredit candidate number one's campaign. That's how they describe Donald Trump.
There is no speculation involved. That is what's known as a lie. People should stop short selling this. It is not misleading. It is a lie. The FBI no speculation was necessary. They knew for a fact this was Hillary Clinton's opponent. That describes someone, this U.S. person, who is not the opponent, who is not the DNC. That is an outright lie.
An identified U.S. person, a guy who runs a Democrat dirty trick shop in Washington, D.C. called Fusion GPS. That's the identified U.S. person.
Forget that. It was funded by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. The fact that they laundered it through other disreputable people is really not relevant here. It was funded by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. And to describe that as the FBI speculates that the U.S. person who funded it may have wanted to oppose Trump's campaign is a lie. And this was to get a shockingly invasive warrant. I mean, it's FISA, it's foreign intelligence. This was against a United States citizen. To be using it like this, I think a lot of the things conservatives go nuts over, uranium one, a few other things. Okay, the Clintons are sleazy. We've always known that. This is so boring. I don't need to know the details. Here, we have a bald-faced lie in a FISA warrant application right in front of us, fully supporting everything the Republicans said about it. And I think the FBI agents and attorneys involved in this, they should be investigated. This is a lie under oath. This is very serious.
Yeah, and if the FBI did this to a mob boss or a crooked CEO of a publicly traded corporation, they lied to get a warrant, the indictment would be thrown out of court in a minute.
Let's also keep reminding people this isn't your standard warrant.
This is a secret
warrant on an American citizen. Are conservatives the only ones who care about civil liberties anymore?
I don't. I was talking about the investigations of the CIA and the FBI in the 70s. The chairman of the committees were all Democrats. The Democrats were hyperventilating about the abuses of the deep state back in the 70s, and now they're totally defending all of these same abuses, only they're much worse. By the way,
much worse. These are very serious abuses.
And everybody always says, well, Christopher Steele, he's the British guy with Trump derangement syndrome, the alleged spy, that he had these Russian sources. Personally, Ann, I think he just made it all up. He hadn't been in Russia in 20 years.
Yeah, that's what it's starting to look like.
Don't you think? Do you agree with me on that? That he made it?
Yes,
that he probably made it up?
Look, all of these memos, as the New York Times calls them, the memos he was producing, not one of them is borne out. I mean, other than yes, Moscow is a city in Russia, so some of the dossier is true, Howie. No, nothing that matters or that anybody cares about. None of it has borne out. One other thing about this bald-faced FBI and Department of Justice lie in a FISA application against someone vaguely associated with the Trump campaign, and that is you will see on my favorite network, MSNBC, and probably CNN, but CNN is like MSNBC, but with more unattractive people and even more boring. They keep going on about how the judges were appointed by Bush. No, what we're trying to say is the judges were snookered here. We're not blaming the judges for believing something that was sworn to by the FBI and the Department of Justice.
Well, I like
they're the malefactors.
Well, one of the excuses I've read, Ann, is, well, the judges should have been able to put two and two together. It was in a footnote.
No. This was a lie. That's why I'm saying the word speculate is crucial here, and the proof of a bald-faced lie. We speculate.
By the way, did you see too that it's now turning out that this guy that's the indicted Senate Intelligence Committee staffer Wolf, who was sleeping with the New York Times 24-year-old reporter Ali Watkins. Apparently, he texted her 82 texts, which they think is one of the original FISA warrants. He texted her the entire thing. They're now speculating. So she had the entire So the congressional committees don't have, or didn't have for a long time, the unredacted warrant applications. But this 24-year-old New York Times reporter who was sleeping with a 57-year-old hack on the Senate Intelligence Committee did have it. And they tell us, this is all on the level. This whole deep state inside the Beltway.
But also to cut through, in addition to the sleaziness involved here, to cut through to the main point, because she was reporting for lots of different news outlets before she went to the New York Times, and obviously, reporters talk amongst themselves. If this guy on intelligence is sending it out, others had it. So we have reason to believe that much of the media had seen the unredacted FISA warrant application, and they knew about this footnote, and they knew that the FBI and DOJ directly and deliberately lied about who had funded the dossier, and yet they have been carrying on for 2 years about how the FISA warrant was, proved that the dossier was accurate.
In other words, Ian,
wrong, blah blah blah.
They reported about all the president's men. Now the corrupt mainstream media are all the president's men.
Right.
And Coulter.
It's a great time to be alive.
Yeah, as long as we can keep them from getting back into power and putting us all out of business. And that's what they want to do. That's what they really want to do. Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us, and we look forward to your appearance with Whoopi Goldberg on The View.
Well, and also a book signing with Howie Carr. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. We'll be working on that. More details to come very shortly.